Welcome to the 24th session on Aparokshanubhuti offered by Binduji. The following texts are given as references. The one is pinned above. It's a new link from eStudent Vedanta, which is so you don't have to navigate the Dropbox. This is because of the request from somebody else here. So the PDF gives you an English translation, a word-to-word translation. There is also a Sanskrit text available. This one is by Swami Vimuktananda. The one that is pinned in the chat is from Advaita scholar Vidyaranya, and that's purely Sanskrit based. And so this repository of the 24th up to 24 talks is now one of the English translations or transliterations offered by Binduji. And all these are available as replays in Clubhouse, and a better place to access that would be YouTube, Advaita Retold channel, where it's cataloged very nicely. And for housekeeping sake, we'll close the chat and hand raising, and we'll open it in about an hour or so, at which point, if you have any clarifications, you can ask questions. Over to you, Binduji.
Thank you, Prakash. Hari Om, welcome to all. Namo Brahma Dibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrubhyo Vamsha Rishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunaliyam Namami Bhagavat Padam Śaṅkaram Lokashaṅkaram Śaṅkaram Śaṅkaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutravāṣikritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Guru Ratmeti Murtiveda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Aparokshanubhuti. Sri Harim Paramanandam Upadeshtaramishwaram Vyapakam Sarvalokanam Karanam Tam Namamyaham. So in the Aparokshanubhuti we have been seeing that Śaṅkaracharya has brought us to the state where we are being given the causes for our confusion, doubt, and wrong impression about who we are. We identifying with our body and is thinking that the world experienced is independent and real, and what we go through as individual and others are multiple individuals in the world, and the way in which we transact in this world is due to this knowledge. So he is in the 65th verse, he is saying that Sarve api vyavaharahastu brahmana kriyate janaihi atnyanat na vijananti mradevahi gadatikam. Janaihi, by the people, na vijananti, they do not know. What? Even when they are working, transacting in the world of the Jagat, whatever the Sarve api vyavaharahastu, all the transactions of dealings or vyavahara mean transactions in the waking and dream and deep sleep, as individual, as a part of the world or interacting with the world, that is what is called the transaction or the vyavahara. Brahmana kriyate, it is happening or we are able to perform or we are doing it because we are all Brahman only. In the sense, it is in the consciousness, awareness and knowledge or in the as a substance with which we feel that there is a world, I am there as a subject, the world is an object, and there is a transaction between the world and the object. All these feelings which we are developing or we are maintaining and nurturing is due to Brahmana, due to the awareness or consciousness. The example given is Gadadigam Mritvat. Gadadigam means the jars and other items made of mud. We are transacting with them as jar or a doll or a lamp or whatever may be that, mud house or whatever may be that. The transaction is never hampering or never hindered, because when we know that they are all mud, the transactions can still continue. But the knowledge that they are made of mud will make us know the ultimate reality is what. The reason why we need to know the ultimate reality that they are all mud and the transactions are happening because of mud. That aspect is something which is not we are taking or we are not taking as our knowledge. We know the substance is mud, but we do not accept that the transactions are possible because it is mud. There is a difference between the two. If you know that it is mud, so what? You can ask. So if it's mud, the pot is mud, the jar is mud, the earth, the house is mud, and we know that everything is mud. So, yeah, what difference does it make? But when we know that it is because mud is there as a substance, and because of the what you call the properties of mud, is the reason why the mud can be formed into a jar or a house or a lamp or etc. Just as gold can be transferred into ornaments of bangles, earrings, everything like that. Same is the thing that the whole world, including the individuality, my own reality and the reality of the world, even by knowing that they are Brahman, is not going to solve us our day-to-day problems. The day-to-day problems are due to the feeling that there is independent existence, even though let it be made by Brahman or let it be of nature of Brahman. What difference will it make in my transaction? How will I know that by knowing Brahman my problems are solved? The reason why is that when we know the property of Brahman as Satchidananda or Satyam Jnanam Anandam Brahma, this nature is the qualities which should be visible and perceivable in the objects, including the subject. I do not know myself as Satyam. I do not know myself as Jnanam. I do not know myself as Anantam. None of these things are known to me. Even by telling that I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, they will not solve that problem. Knowing that the world is made of Brahman also is not going to solve the problem. Unless and until we see the properties or you cannot use the word property because there is no property in Brahman as such. These are all indicative words used to indicate the nature of Brahman. The Satchidananda or Satyajnanam Anandam Brahma. It is from the transactional point of view, we are using the words to go beyond the words. But since they are indicative, we should be able to extrapolate it in the transaction to know that what is Satyam. Satyam is that which never undergoes any change. Now, if you look at the world, it is ever changing. Looking at me as a subject, I am also ever changing. From the childhood till now, what I thought as I am, not my real I am, what I thought as I am has undergone changes. So I don't see Satyam or that eternity or what you call non-changeability or permanence in either the world of transaction or in myself. Then how do I know that this world is made of Brahman? I am of Brahman nature. The shlokas, the Acharya says that Sarve api vyavaharatu Brahmana kriyate. It is because of Brahman that transactions are possible. The life is happening. We are experiencing. All those things are due to Brahman. Now, how do we get that aspect into our knowing or our understanding, our being, that what is Brahman? How should I equate that with my experience of living and transaction? Let us look what Vidyaranya Swami has brought it into it. Word by word we will go into that. Nanu yatra hi dvaitamiva bhavati ityadi shruti arthat darshanena avasthatraya videha mokshau uktau natu jivan mokshaha iti ashankya aha sarva iti. Nanu means the objection is being raised. Yatra hi dvaitamiva bhavati. This is a quote from Bhēdadṛṣṭi Upanishad 2.4.14. Where indeed there is appearing to be duality. Tatra hi dvaitam iva bhavati tat itara itaram pasyati. Itara itaram shrunoti. Itara itaram vijanati. This is what the Bhēdadṛṣṭi says, that wherever there is a appearance or that duality is experienced, there only we see the otherness. Therefore, ityadi shruti artha darshanena, by interpreting the meaning of these words, avasthatraye, in all the three states, that is waking, dream and deep sleep. Videha mokshau uktau, what is mentioned as disembodied liberation, that is that the freedom from this transactional world will happen only after death. Not liberation while living. That type of a doubt can come into our mind. Because our experiences are entrenched in the three states of waking, dream and deep sleep. Without the dream, waking and deep sleep, how can I have an experience other than the three, where I do not see the duality? Because Upanishad says that wherever you see a duality, wherever you perceive duality, therefore you have the transactional or vyavahara. Iti asankya, if that is the doubt, the answer is sarva. One word answer. Means when you say sarva, the word sarva is negating duality. Everything is that, when that statement is being made, that the word everything will have no multiplicity in that, but a unification. Everything is that, means the mud pot, the jar, the lamp, the house, everything is made of mud, means you will have that sense of oneness. Just as if I say the water is the wave, water is the ripple, water is the cloud, water is the rain, water is the river. That doesn't stop you from the transaction of the world, water, the rain and the river and everything. But the knowledge that everything is the same water only appearing as many will make you a knowledgeable person, or a person with a special capacity to not to see multiplicity at the same time, transact depending upon the availability. It is, please understand that the application is depending upon in what form the water comes. If it comes as snow, you need to know what to do. If it is rain, you need to know what it is do. But knowing that both snow and rain are nothing but the rain, one when it is sub-zero temperature and the other one is a normal temperature. One you call it as snow, one you call it as rain. But both are nothing but water dropping from the sky. One crystallizes to form snow, the other doesn't crystallize, it falls as water. Our transactions will be depending upon the snow or the water or the rain. But the knowledge that both of them are nothing but the forms of water is the same way in which we need to look into the nature of multiplicity in the world. For that he says, Sarve api laukikaha.
Binduji, we can't hear you.
I can, I'm not, because okay. What happened, the word file closed by mistake.
Okay.
So I'm reopening it.
Okay.
So that's what happened.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Sarvepi laukika vaitika iti shesham spashtam. Whether they are the people who are endowed with Vedic knowledge or people who do not have the Vedic knowledge, both people have no problem. Both people deal with the world in the same way. So here we are talking about the Jivan Mukti aspect of it, that whether it is the liberation or the freedom from problem, or the freedom which we are talking, the Shastra is talking about, whether that freedom is only when you don't have the waking dream and deep sleep, or you will feel free even during waking, free and dreaming by knowing the truth. So one is called Videha Mukti, means without the body. That means after you leave the body, you are free, because you don't experience the body or the body experiences. So you may be free. Nobody knows about those who have gone, left the body, has not come back to explain that. But then there is another thing which is called the Jivan Mukti. That Jivan Mukti is while living to have the same freedom of the same effect. We do not identify with the individuality of the waker, dream and deep sleep. That is what is called Jivan Mukti. Ajnana nivrittihi eva Jivan Muktaha. Natu Dvaita Darshana. Now, what is Jivan Mukti as per Vidyaranya's commentary is that where there is no multiplicity being perceived for transactional purpose, Ekatvam Anupashyata. We studied this in the Chandogya, where ektrana anyat pashyati anyat shvanoti anyat vijanati. Where we do not see the multiplicity, we do not hear the otherness from the other thing, and we do not treat or deal or consider anything other than myself or ourselves. That is Ekatvam. Opposite of that is the Dvaita Darshana, where we see that there is otherness, I am there, the world is separate from me, and all this nature of duality is the Dvaita Darshanam. That is contrary, and that will not give you Jivan Mukti. Jivan Mukti means freedom while living. If you want real freedom and unattached and uncontaminated or unaffected, uninflicted by the happenings in the world, which is called the Jivan Mukti, for that you need to develop Ajnana Nivritti. Ajnana Nivritti is Dvaita Darshana Nivritti, the seeing the multiplicity. When you do not see the multiplicity, you are seeing only one truth in everything. And that, when you look at it, it is not an eradication of appearances. See, that's what people always think about, is that when we do not see the multiplicity, we are eradicating the appearances of multiplicity. No, it is not an eradication of appearances, but an eradication of an error. The sage still sees the world, the one who has become Jivan Mukta, one who has freed himself from the duality or the knowledge of duality, ignorance. He still sees the world, but knows them to be mithya. Now the word mithya is to be understood properly. What is the word mithya means? Mithya is a wrong perception, or a perception where we do not see the reality. We see that waking dream and deep sleep are real and happening. But at the same time, the whole world or a whole experience of humanity or the whole world of Jivatvam is, I am encapsulating it into Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, dream, waking and deep sleep. And it is in that we have duality. And that duality is what is being called mithya here. Mithya means illusion or unreal or appearance which gives rise to real experience. Like the snake which is appearing on a rope can give rise to a real experience, or the wateriness we see in a mirage will make us feel that there is water and make consequences of that. So wherever we have an error of cognition or error of perception or error of what you call understanding, that aspect is what is called mithya, and it is not that the appearance will vanish. The mere seeing of duality in itself is not a bondage. The bondage lies in believing in its reality due to a non-apprehension of the truth. Why? For that is what is said, that the mud itself is the pot, the gold itself is the ornaments. Nama Rupa, only the names and forms are the reason why we call it them separate or we transact with them real. You, me being separate is not a problem. Our transaction has no problem. But knowing that you are also Brahman, I am also Brahman, is the place where the duality is removed. Now, how is the duality being removed? You knowing yourself and myself or anything else as names and forms appearing in awareness or consciousness. And when they appear in awareness or consciousness, they cannot be separate from the awareness or consciousness. Therefore, they are all nothing but the consciousness or awareness, which is Brahman. They appearing, having separate names and transactions in the appearance has no problem. The snow falling or the rainwater falling has no problem. But knowing them as both of them as water will have us the same understanding that they are made of the same thing. See, there is a difference when we take an example. In the case of an example of the snow and the rain, it is still not me, but something separate from me. But here is something which is very difficult for us to fathom, is that here it is being talked about our own existence or our own reality. So when we say that the rainwater is an awareness in which it is happening, if that awareness is not happening, the true nature, there also the problem will come. The awareness which we are familiar is only the awareness which we have in our mind. We do not know the pure consciousness or the pure awareness which is being referred as Brahman or Atman. So when I say that rainwater is also awareness, I am also awareness, I know that I am is my awareness. The rainwater is in awareness, that is why I am able to know that it is rainwater. Knowing that these are the fundamental realities. Transaction of rainwater wetting us is not going to stop. But knowing that the separation is there and that separation is creating me a problem, and that problem is my problem, where we do not see that whether the rainwater also has a problem or not, we do not know. We don't even ignore or convey it. That is also awareness. Just as it wanted to flow onto the water into the river, by falling on you, it has stopped on its way, can be a problem for the rainwater. It may not be able to vocalize it. I'm giving these simple examples because we cannot shift ourselves into that pure awareness to have a state where we do not see oneness in reaction in transactional world. In the phenomenal world, to see the unity is very difficult. We can assume it or mentally cognize or imagine it in our deep sleep, where there is no duality. But when I say that duality is the fundamental reality which is there always, when their appearances of the waking dream and deep sleep is appearing, the appearances in the waking dream or the deep sleep is nothing but the same awareness which is there in the deep sleep, which is appearing as the waker and the waking world, or the dreamer and the dream world. When it is being told, theoretically we will appreciate it. But when it comes to the transactional aspect, to transform that into our transactional knowledge is very difficult. And that is why it is called avidya. So the avidya has got two meanings. One is ignorance, and the other one is that which cannot exist. Na vidyate yat sat. That which cannot exist. That means in the transactional world, we cannot transact with the knowledge that it is Brahman. All of them are Brahman. But the one who is able to successfully understand that, fathom it, convinced about it by Shravana Manana Nididhyasana or the Shastra Vasana, or knowing that, such a person, even while transacting, he will transact with all the knowledge of transactional world, but he is not even mentally, even beyond his mind is where he is established, where he sees that his mind is also transacting in the transactional world, because mind is also an appearance in awareness. He doesn't identify his mind as his mind anymore. He sees that it is as a mind where the mind is interacting. So these type of experiences, which is being called as the Jivan Mukti, if we want to know that what is Śruti and Śaṅkara Bhāṣya, we have to look into the other places where it is being referred. Yadavi heva esha etasmin na udaram antaram kurute atatasya bhayam bhavati. In the Brihādaranya Upanishad 4:19, it says that when this self sees no difference whatsoever, even if in the sight, udaram antaram, that is that even the slightest, then there is no fear for him. Dvaya dvai bhayam bhavati. He sees the fearness or the transaction. His transactions are fearless because he doesn't know that there is something different from him. Even the slightest notion of separation between the Upasaka and the Upasya, or the one which is worshipped or worshipped, even that way can cause fear. But when that duality is negated, fearlessness, abhayam, that is the state of, arises only when all the duality is seen as non-separate from the self. The self is not myself. It is the self of all, even while living. That is why it is the Jivan Mukti. Then in the Chandogya Upanishad 6:14-2, Yatreva Sanjahati, he's saying that here itself, while living, he gives up all desires. To desire something, you need something separate from you. So, Tat Jahati, the reality of separation is abandoned by such a person, and such a person doesn't have any more desire to have something other than him, because he sees himself in everything. And it's a liberation not after death, because atra eva means in this life itself, in this very moment itself. The desirelessness drawn out of self-knowledge, or the knowledge of the self, or the knowledge of our own reality, makes such a person not to desire anything in this world, because he doesn't see the separatedness in him. In the Mundaka Upanishad 3:2-9, it is mentioned that Jnatva mundi bhavati. Mundaka Upanishad, mundi bhavati. Having known, Jnatva means having known the truth, self or Brahman, he becomes a sage, silent and tranquil. Mundi means silent and tranquil. He becomes a sage because there is nothing, no more activity for him. Activity is an appearance. If there is no real activity at all. Upon realization, he becomes free from action. That is why in the Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna talks about karma, karma yoga, karma sannyasa, and all these things is to take us to that state of actionlessness. Na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyage neke amrutva manashuhu. So that is the time when your desires and even the question of birth and rebirth, all of them are evaporated, dissipated, disseminated, or whatever word we can use it. That happens. Then in the Ishavasya Upanishad it says, Tatra ko mohaha ko shokaha ekatvam anupashyata. He studied that. Ekatvam anupashyata. The oneness, ekatvam means oneness. Anupashyataha. It is not just seen by eyes. Anupashyataha, who becomes one by knowing the oneness. Tatra, in that case, kaha mohaha ka shokaha. How can he have desire and sorrow? Both are no more there. He knows that whatever he was having was due to a delusion, due to ignorance. That mukti or the freedom he realizes is while living. Jivan mukti avastha. Moha, shoka is all due to ignorance. And when oneness is seen, ekatvam anupashyataha, even while embodied, these desires and moha, etc. vanish for such a person. In the Brihādaranya Upanishad 4.4.6, he says again, Brahmaivasan Brahmapyed. Being Brahman, he attains Brahma apnoti. Brahmaivasan. This was repeated in the Taittiriya also. When you become Brahman or not become Brahman, you are Brahman now. But when you know that you are Brahman, being Brahman, that is what he says. Brahmaivasan means when that beingness, what is you or what is we, our true nature, when we know that we are Brahman, the consciousness, the pure awareness, we do not know our consciousness or awareness. We become the consciousness and awareness. And in the consciousness and awareness, everything is in consciousness and awareness. There is nothing outside it. So, tatra ko moha ko shoka. How can he have a desire or shoka for such a thing? And how does it arrive? Vajarambanam vikaro namadeyam mrittigatyeva samtyam. In the Chandogya Upanishad 6.1.4, where Uddalaka, Shvetaketu, the father says to the son, Vajarampanam, it is Vakalampanam. The modifications are based on speech only because of the name. Because of the names, we call it by different names. And because of the shape, vikaraha, the name and the form makes us feel there is a separate entity. Namadeyam. In reality, there is only one. Mrittigateva satyam. The mud alone is the pot, the jar, the cloud, the house, etc., etc., etc. Same way, it is the Brahman alone. Tat satyam, tattumasi shvetaketu. That is the truth. And that truth you are, oh my dear son, Shvetaketu, you are that satyam. And the satyam is the world, because Brahman is satyam. Tat satyam. Everything else is mithya. The names and the forms which is appearing or being used for transaction is based on their appearance, not because they have separate existence, entity or awareness or, separate from Brahman. They are all Brahmanyeva. That is why the sloka says, no? Inna vijanadi. The loka, the jana inna vijanadi. The people are not knowing that this is what it is. Because what happens? We are depending upon the names and forms. Therefore, Jivan Mukti point of view, this, that is knowing the reality, Tat Satyam, that the world is only appearance of names and forms, and the truth, that the only truth is the self, the Brahman, or the pure consciousness. The person becomes liberated while living. And in the Bhashya, Acharya says that, Mithya Jnana Nivritti Eva Moksha. The cessation of false knowledge alone is the liberation. There is no separate liberation which is to be attained in the Brahmaloka, Satyaloka or any other loka. They are all imaginations. The only truth is knowing our own truth, our own reality. That is what is called mithya jnana nivritti. The freedom from the false illusion that I am an individual, I am the body, the mind, the intellect, and the awareness or the knowledge is an activity of the mind or the intellect. If that is the image, that is the knowledge you are having, you will be ever bound by the mind and the intellect. But it is in the awareness that the mind appears, the intellect appears, the body appears, the world appears, the objects appear, the subjectiveness appears. Everything, when you know that, tadeva moksha. That is the immediate release or liberation for the individual. Na jnatasya punarjnanam na upapadyate. Once knowing that I am that self, that knowledge, that awareness, that consciousness, there is no Brahman to be known again. And there is no second knowledge. A knowledge which is in the mind and the knowledge which is separate from the mind as existence. No. The mind is appearing inside the knowledge or the consciousness or the pure. So what knowledge is appearing in the mind, that knowledge is pure. But the moment you think that is separate from nama rupa by names and forms, by the different names and forms experiences of the mind or in the intellect, that is due to ignorance. You cannot divide, you cannot bifurcate, you cannot compartmentalize knowledge or awareness. But we do that because it is the content of the knowledge which is making us to do that. And the content of the knowledge is nothing but the names and forms. And the names and forms have no reality absolutely. They have appearances and they disappear. What is true can never appear and disappear. It has to be always present. Jivan muktasya tvapratyaya matra vritti. The liberated while living abides merely in one's own self. He doesn't see anything other than himself. So he abides in himself, in everything. Na sa bhuyo abhijayate. Such a person has no birth or rebirth. Katha says that. Such a person, once who has attained this realization that he is not the individual but the pure awareness or consciousness, such a person doesn't see the birth and death. The birth and death is just as the waking and the dream coming and going. That is what is appearing to be the death of waker to the dreamer's death to the waking or the deep sleep. In reality, I am the one Sakshi, which is knowing these things are happening, and I have no birth and death. But what is known to me as waker or a dreamer, they appear and disappear, so I call their birth and disappearance as birth and death. Now, Bhēdadṛṣṭi, when we have that fault in seeing duality, wherever there is a hearing of difference or an acknowledgement of a difference, that is what is called the Bhēdadṛṣṭi. It is actually not different from the cause where the knowledge is appearing from. If it is seen as separate by depending on the name and form, tad Doṣa iti. It is called a defect. In the Upanishads it says that, Katha Upanishad, Mrityosa mrityum apnodi saha sa yaha nana eva pashyati. He who sees difference here itself, if you see the difference, If you see multiplicity, if you acknowledge multiplicity as a reality, multiple appearances as multiplicity, if you acknowledge it, then such a person goes from death to death. Means he goes from waking to dream to deep sleep to and everything. And he is the waker, the dreamer, and the deep sleeper. He can never see himself as the Sakshi, the one who sees these changes happening in and out. Only one who can see himself as the Sakshi, and I am neither the waker nor the dreamer nor the deep sleeper. Such a person is the one who is emancipated or freed or liberated. The causal non-difference from how can the world be non-different from Brahman? Brahmana iti. From Brahman. This world is nothing but Brahman. Why? Brihatvad aparichinnatvad. This consciousness, pure awareness, or the Brahman or Atman, is infinite and indivisible. Briha and aparichinna. Tadruvatvad. That is the nature. There is no spot, no space or time when awareness or consciousness is not there. And it cannot be bifurcated as a substance, but as contents in it, we create separation, limitation, and substitute. But you are not that limited. If you depend upon your name and the form of the individuality which you are holding, then you will be having that limitation. But if you know that you are pure awareness, self-consciousness, that self, Paramatma, you become the supreme self. Because there is no more individuality associated with you. Sarvani Bhutani, all the things which we see, experience and transact, they are appearances in awareness. Because they have names and forms, we treat them differently. Nanu nana nama rupaka vedena vijitrani bhutani katam brahmatmakatani iti ashankya aha brahma eva. How can this multiplicity appearing in different names, form, action, etc. essentially Brahma? Multiplicity is appearance. If we analyze the multiplicity, we will see that they are nothing but Nama Rupa, which is depending upon or superimposed upon one reality, which is the awareness or consciousness. If you take the word from Bhēdadṛṣṭi, Trayamba idam nama rupam karma. Trayamba. The world is just three. What? In the form of name, in the form of form, vikara, and action. Apart from these three, there is no separate world. The world, what we call it as the world, has no existence. Just because they have a name, form and action, we call it as a world. But they are nothing but awareness or pure consciousness. Suvarna jhayamanasya suvarnatvam cha shashvatam. Just as gold is the reality for all the ornaments born out of gold. See, born out of gold means gold has not gone through any change or any modification. What is become the ornament is only in the name and form of appearing in the gold. Even when we are transacting with the ornaments, it is gold. Even before it was gold, if you melt it, they become gold again. Same way, Brahmano jayamanasya brahmatvam cha tada bhavet. It is the same case with awareness or consciousness. In awareness and consciousness, when the name, form and action form, we call it as a world. And that world appears to be real to us because we transact with the name, form and the Svalpamapyasya andaram upasya upasaka rupam vedam kritva kalpayitva yaha tishtati tasya bhayam bhavati. This is again in the cause of fear. When we do this type of separation, depending upon the name, form and action, nama rupa, bhayam bhavati. We have every emotion, reaction and feeling because we have given them reality by our reality. Our reality is the same reality in them, but we do not see the reality of myself in them, or our reality we do not see in the world of objects. Therefore, we create a duality called the subject and object. And the moment we create the duality of subject and object, bhayam bhavati, the fear and other consequences have happened. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaiva bhut vijanataha tasya ko moha ko shoka. We saw this. Only one who sees the duality will have that fear, delusion of desire, ownership, aggrandizing. I have tomorrow, I need to lead this, all these type of problems. You are free here and now, this very moment. The moment you can know that you are the awareness, consciousness, not the individuality whom you think you are. If you think you are by the name and form with which you are associating yourself and thinking that who you are, tasya bhayam bhavati, then you will have fear for the next moment, next day, birth, death, all those things will be there. There are a lot of examples like the dream, snake and rope, silver, nacer, etc. used in the different Upanishad. Same way, the jiva too is only a name. Pare Brahmani jiva shabdastata. In the Parabrahman or in that supreme consciousness or pure consciousness, names just as appearing, this individuality of you and me, which we think and adhere and cling on to, is only a name and a form which we have wrongly conceptually accepted as a reality. Are we that? Enquire yourself. Who you are, what you are. If you are conceptually wedded to the individuality, the name and the form and the actions and your living, your world of subjectivity and objectivity, etc., then you are the jiva and you can never be free from your problems. Only when you think that jivatvam is mithya, is an appearance, nama matra. Kintu sarvam vishwamapi brahmani nama matra. That is the time when you will have the realization that not only I am a name and form in appearance in awareness, the whole world is also a name and form in the Brahman. The purpose of emphasizing mithyatva, why the mithya aspect is so emphasized in Advaita is that nama matra prapanchasya mithyatva vasana dharghya. It is this concrete feeling that I am a separate individual. The world is separate from me. That is so strong, we are not able to see the unreality in it. The showing the world that is name and based by the examples of rope and snake, gold and ornaments, water and the forms. All those things are being shown only for the conviction that they are unreal. Just as they are unreal, you are also an object in this world. So your physical entity, your physical name and form, the physics with which you identify as the individuality is also equally unreal, mithya. Jnanam, neyam, there is no difference between that thing to be known and knowledge. The only thing which is there is Brahman. Know that Brahman is the only real, or the pure consciousness is the only reality. And removal of all other notions which will make segregation or separation is what is called Dvaita Darshanam, or ignorance or Mithyatva Darshanam. If you are able to Atnyana Nivritti, if you can, or if you are able to do that, the solution or dissolving or realizing that they do not exist, while living here now in this very moment, by the freedom from ignorance, you are liberated. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Harihi Om. Thank you. Dhanyawad.
Thank you, Bindoji, for that deep meditative session. I've opened the chat window and also hand raising. If there are any follow-up questions, Bindoji will be here for a short time, about half an hour. Bindoji, I have a question. It is
Go ahead.
this word we use as awareness and consciousness. We touched upon it yesterday. I wanted to, dig a little bit into it. So we use the word sometimes, seem to use the word interchangeably at times when we say pure consciousness or awareness. So in Sanskrit, is there a clear lexicon differentiating those?
See, in Sanskrit, what we call it as Bodham is the one which is being referred to as the awareness, pure awareness. Pratibodha Vididam Matam. In the Kena Upanishad it says that. Pratibodham means Bodham Prati. Even though the individual experiences are appearing in the pure awareness, they are nothing but pure awareness. We call it as Bodham Prati. Awareness separated by the contents of the awareness. Therefore, we are enamored, or we are seeing them as what you call separated. That is why Nama Rupa separation is coming. So the awareness which is there is the same awareness which is there in the mind also. But in the mind, when the awareness is there for us to understand, cognize or realize in our mind, The awareness is not realized because of the dependency on the nama rupa action, name, form and activity. We cannot conceive about awareness in our mind without a content to that awareness. But what awareness is there in the mind because of which we know the name and the form of the action is the same awareness all the time, everywhere. That is the only one which is real. By negating the name, form and action are nothing but appearances in awareness, the world outside, which is being also seen and known as separate, has been diminished or dissolved in the awareness. That is where the duality dissolves into unity. So the lexicon or the word which we used should be used is in such a way we are using is two things. One is pure awareness where the contents have no name, form or activity. And the same awareness in which the contents appear in the form of name and form and this thing, we call it as our awareness in the mind. If you can segregate the name, form and the content in the knowing or in the understanding, that itself is the pure awareness. But due to the practice which we have followed, we are never able to do that unless and until we are able to follow the scriptural words of Upanishad and do a nididhyasana on that. That becomes a reality only when we can dissolve that or knowledge with which we know that the name, form and etc. do not have independent substance or reality. They are all nothing but awareness only. What I call by name, what I call by form, what I call by action is all awareness only or consciousness only. Then all of them will become one and the same. That is the time it is called pure awareness, pure consciousness or Atman or Brahman.
Yes, that was very clear, Binduji. But how about awareness and consciousness?
Awareness and consciousness are confusing for some people in the sense that they think the consciousness is an independently existing fundamental reality, something like the unified field of quantum, etc. And awareness is a functional aspect of consciousness when we are transacting through the world of objects. That type of a bifurcation is due to the nomenclature of the word consciousness and awareness. Ideally speaking, there is no separation between the two. If you bring in that separation, that shows that the dependency on the name and form and the transaction is awareness, and without them, what it is there as a fundamental principle with no access to that is called consciousness. But Advaita refutes that. There is no way the consciousness as an independent fundamental reality outside access existing and awareness, which is transactional knowledge, what is happening, is separate from that. No. Advaita says that both of them are one. There is only one and only one, which is called consciousness, or other you call it as awareness. But know why the awareness is called separate is due to the dependency on the names and forms.
Yes, thank you, Binduji. That was clear. Thank you. Anybody from the audience? If there's questions, please come up. Otherwise, we can wind up a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I think nobody's there. Either today's class is too much, or it has gone above head, or still they need to listen to it again.
I think Andy is coming up. Definitely need to listen to it again, because there's so much of very intricate back and forth of multiplicity and that lack of multiplicity. So yes, definitely.
Right.
Welcome, Andy.
Yes, I just wanted to confirm that I will be doing this listening again. But what was really awesome is that I won't be concentrating with the mind. I don't know why, but I catch so much more. When I don't, somehow it's like a dog that hears the word treat. My ears they perk up and like, what did I just hear? So yeah, I just wanted to confirm that it's perfect for some questions that have come up lately for me. So it just feels like you took my hand and brought me there. I appreciate it. Thank you. Great reverence for you, everyone here. Everyone around here.
Thank you, Andy.
Our essence. Yes.
I guess there's no more questions, so shall we close
Yeah,
the room?
I think we can close the room.
So just thank everyone for showing up for the session. I know it's early in the morning in India and it's a different schedule than what we usually follow, but the follow-up room is on Monday, 6:30 a.m. IST. But anyway, if you go into the house schedule, you can find it your own time, local time. And yes, and the replays are available if you want to go and listen to it as we talk about the Sravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. That is important if you want to get the depth of the practice. And obviously, thanks so much, Bindoji, for taking the time and offering us this course. You can close the room now. You can.
Yeah. Thank you, Prakash. Thank you, Auntie. Thank you all for listening to this, and we'll meet again on Monday morning, same time.
Thank you.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Good night. Good day.